Hi, and welcome back to Just One More Chapter with Emily. We've been reading through The Interpreter by Brooke Robinson. It's a story that follows Ravel Lee, an interpreter in London, who is a single woman trying to adopt a little boy out of foster care. It talks about her work and her struggle to get Elliot adopted. If you've been with us since the beginning, welcome back. If you're new here, I suggest you go back and listen to the other chapters of the book as we're starting on chapter 13 today. If you're ready for chapter 13, grab your coffee, settle in, and here we go with chapter 13 of The Interpreter. Everything good for today? I reply to Lydia's text as the kettle boils. Yes, I'm feeling positive. I'll see you there. Green tea warms my throat. Elliot, school, I say from the kitchen. We have to leave in 10 minutes. I convinced myself that Elliot's birth mother opposing the adoption order is a good thing. Without the appeal, I would never have been called as a witness and wouldn't have the opportunity to make my case to the judge, to tell him or her in my own words how much Elliot means to me. Today's the day. I drop Elliot at Breakfast Club and make my way to the station. I'm wearing my usual attire of black trousers and a plain collared shirt, but as I board the train, I chastise myself for not selecting something else this morning, something which I would otherwise not wear to court. Today is the first time I'm appearing inside a courtroom not as an interpreter, but as me. Lydia is still confident things will go our way. We will wait a few weeks for notice of the final hearing, essentially a formality, where the judge should sign the adoption order and Elliot will be legally, permanently mine. Once I get to Paddington, the train to Swindon takes an hour. I purposefully have not prepared my answers for the judge. At every stage of this process, I presented as exactly what the adoption agency was looking for. I molded my responses to the shape of what it was social workers wanted to hear. Benevolent deceit. I was who they wanted me to be, but no more. Today I'm going to court as the real me. At Swindon, I'm glad to depart the stifling train where the crisp October air hits me and corrects my temperature. The family court is a 10-minute walk from the station, and now I start to feel my nerves switch on. What if I say something wrong that cannot be reeled back in? I'm assuming that by not preparing my answers, I'll show the judge my genuine feelings toward keeping Elliot, unpolished but compelling. But what if instead I come across as nonchalant? His previous foster parents might say something that supports the case of him returning to his birth parents. The judge could simply be that way inclined, and maybe he or she will be right, that the best thing is for Elliot to return to his real family and not be with me. I reach the court building and look for a coffee shop where I'm due to meet Lydia. I pass a Primark and a medical center, but I don't see any cafe. I check my phone to see if she mentioned further details and see there are 4 missed calls, all from Lydia. She's left voicemails too, the first over half an hour ago. I must have lost reception on the train. She picks up on the second ring. Ravel, finally, where have you been? I'm here. I'm looking for a Costa or a Starbucks. I can't see where you mean. You're an hour late, she says, a statement of fact with anger underneath. I'm standing right out front of the court. Where are you? I'm late? I'm early, if anything. I thought we said... She cuts me off. Where are you? I'm here, standing by the sign. Gordon Gardens. You can't miss me. Gordon Gardens? Yes, the white street sign. I don't know where you are, Ravel, but you were supposed to be here an hour ago. Use your phone's GPS, for heaven's sakes. Regent's Park Road. It's right by Finchley Central. I don't see how you can miss it. Regent's Park Road. Ravel, hello? Are you there? Hello? I can't answer because now there is an alarm going off in my head, drowning everything out. Regent's Park Road is in London. Finchley Central is in London. I don't understand. I must have misheard her. It's going to be all right. I'm at Swindon Family Court. That's where the second letter said to go. Lydia has moved the phone away from her mouth. I can hear her talking to someone else, her voice with a puny squeak. The road seems to shimmer in front of me, and I know what to do. I'm not going to panic. I start running and get back to the station in 4 minutes. There's a train to Paddington every 15 minutes, I tell Lydia as I climb the platform stairs 2 at a time. It will take me 90 minutes to get to Finchley, at the most. Ravel, it will. The next train is in 2 minutes. I'm breathing hard. An hour to Paddington, then I'll change to the subway and... It'll be too late. They're wrapping up. Court is booked back to back. They can't just wait for you. Why are you in Swindon? The first notice from the court said Barnet was the location, but the second said there was no second court notice. I received it last week, a couple of days after the letter about the appeal. It said our case had been moved to Swindon because of the backlog. I read it in the news. Some courts still have 2-year backlog from the pandemic, so they're moving lots of cases out of London and... I don't know what you're talking about, Ravel. There was no second letter from the court. I received it. Someone must have made an error. They mixed up our case with another. Look, I need to be on my way to visit a family. I'll call you on Monday. Wait, Lydia, please, ask the judge to... The judge was furious enough when he thought you were running late. I'm not going to tell him you went to the wrong court, and you're still 90 minutes away. She cuts me off again. On Monday, we'll have a frank discussion. What happens now? I can't wait until then. I'm flagging a cab. I need to go. She hangs up, and I slump to the concrete. How could this happen? I didn't bring the court letters with me because there was no need, but I can picture them both, and they are almost identical. The first was about the appeal with details of Barnett Family Court, and the second noting the change of venue and the revised start time. Lydia is confused. Something has gone wrong. She needs to clarify with the judge so they know this wasn't my fault. I try ringing again, but she doesn't pick up. Is this another black mark against me? What judge is going to remove a child from his family and place him with a woman who cannot even manage to turn up to court? On the platform, I stagger to a bench. The train to Paddington arrives, and I drag myself on. I lose reception. I change carriages, running up and down the aisle, my eyes on the phone screen, searching for a bar of signal. I write Lydia 3 lengthy text messages, and eventually they send before the signal cuts out again. As we approach London, normal service resumes, and I try calling her, but now there's not even a ring. She's immediately rejecting the call. At home, I race inside to my desk, heading straight for my court documents folder. The second notice, the most recent one I received, I left it on top. I know I did. I'm not imagining it. The letter about Swindon Family Court arrived, and I left it with all the other paperwork I've accumulated since I've applied to adopt. And now the whole folder is empty. For the next hour, I scour my flat, and I am certain that nothing else has been taken. There is not so much as a missing teaspoon. Someone was in here. The drug dealer came back. Not for drugs. He's a relative. He has to be from Elliot's birth family. His mother appealed. She was granted leave to oppose. She's cleverer than Lydia thinks she is. She wants Elliot back, and she is going to sabotage me. It's only 1:30. Far too early for me to collect Elliot from school. Should I call the police? Apart from the missing paperwork, there's nothing to report. The windows aren't broken and the door locks are intact. I don't even know how someone could have possibly gotten inside. They won't take me seriously, and if I file a police report, it will only get back to Lydia and make the situation worse. I retrace my steps that day, checking the mail, opening the envelope. The front was the same, the layout, everything about the court notice seemed genuine. Did his birth mother or another relative fabricate the letter, have me sent to Swindon, and then arrange for the contents of my folder to be stolen to remove the evidence? How else could this have happened? Once more I check our windows and examine the 2 locks on our front door. They haven't been tampered with. It's possible copies of my key exist, but the estate agent isn't going to hand them out to anyone who asks. If someone has access to our flat, are we even safe here? Is Elliot in danger with me? They say mother birds and squirrels abandon their young if they can smell that they've been handled and cared for by a human, but that's a myth. The mother animal happily takes her baby back to her nest, and that's what worries me the most. My thumbs grind into my eyes. If Elliot is returned to his birth family, what kind of situation is he going back to? I pick up my phone to call Lydia. No. I stop myself, drop the phone on the coffee table, and step away. I need to be very careful about what I say to her. I cannot appear unstable. I need her on my side. The sofa suddenly looks very inviting. I sit down and observe the room, the hall, the open kitchen. Everything is completely normal, and I seem to snap out of it. I am unstable. My behavior is completely irrational. No one broke into our flat, magically, without leaving a trace, stealing nothing except for the 1 stack of papers. I read the wrong court address. I probably saw Swindon Court attached to an interpreting job and got the 2 confused. I haven't been sleeping well. The stress and anticipation about the adoption has gotten to me. I've done other absent-minded things this past week, like finding the washing powder in the fridge after spending an hour looking for it and accidentally returning Elliot's tub of ice cream to the cupboard instead of the freezer, only noticing when the chocolatey liquid started to drip down the wall. We're safe here. I need Lydia to lobby that family court judge, and she won't do that if I keep pestering her. I put a cushion over my phone and vow not to touch it. It is a long wait until I can collect Elliot from school. I am desperate to see him. He knows today I was doing something related to his adoption, and I can only hope that in the excitement of after school he forgets to ask me how it went. I cannot contact Lydia, but I want to know what happens now. What are the odds of the judge ruling in my favor? Surely this kind of thing has happened before. People make mistakes and arrive late at court for all sorts of reasons. Some people would have a cat Some people would have a car accident on their way and not turn up at all. I need to know that I still have a chance. Doreen would know. She'd be able to advise me. But she could also shut down the whole thing. I remind myself that I cannot contact her now. When I met Doreen, I'd been working as an interpreter for about 3 months. Exia Translation and Interpreting Services called me very early in the morning with an address in West London, the location for a supervised contact session with a local authority. According to my online search, gives the opportunity for birth parents to interact with their child where the child is in the care system. Social workers observe and write a contact report for the local authority, the family court, and solicitors where applicable. The job was to sit next to the social worker and repeat all of the interactions that passed between the German-speaking mother and child. The little boy was currently in the care of foster parents. The local authority was considering returning him to his mother pending this contact report. I felt comfortable by then doing police and court work, but this was the first time I had an assignment involving a child. I had the jitters as my feet climbed the stairs. At the top was a squalid little room. Soiled carpet, broken ceiling lights, mold clung to the air, a glamorous introduction to the world of interpreting for a local authority. "You must be the interpreter." A 50-something woman appeared in the doorframe, hand outreached for me to shake. "I'm Doreen. I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to call you. The session's been delayed by an hour. Can you still do it?" "Sure. This is my only job today," I said. "Good. Great. We're always short of interpreters. I don't know who we'd get to replace you. No one in the office speaks German. Come on, let's go across the road and kill time in the cafe. The least I can do is buy you a coffee." I followed Doreen out of the building and into the cafe where she chose the table closest to the window. "I'm sorry again for wasting your time. Add this hour onto your timesheet, won't you? So you get paid for it?" she said. I was still nervous about the job and let Doreen do most of the talking. It's just so fascinating, interpreting. It's one of those professions that I think is extremely difficult, but made to look easy, like professional athletes. You watch the Olympics and think that anyone can throw a javelin, but that's the magic of it. That's when you know someone is really good. She used her teaspoon to carve a poppy seed muffin in two. I never had any contact with social workers myself growing up, but my parents both had alcohol problems. I wasn't abused or anything, but their money went on booze, and there was often not much food in the home, and I went to school in the wrong uniform. You know, the usual stuff. Doreen chewed her way through the smaller of the muffin halves and gestured for me to eat the other. When I was about 20, I was working at a hairdresser's and thinking about retraining to get into social work. One of the shop's clients was a lady who was a retired social worker, so one day I asked her to tell me about the job. She told me that what stuck with her the most, by then she'd been retired for over 10 years. When she reflected on her career, she didn't remember the poverty she'd witnessed or the child neglect. What she thought of the most was this inescapable human thing, that no matter what a parent does to a child, even if their mom is Rosemary West, their kids will always love them and want to be with them. Her last ever case before she retired summed this up perfectly. She went to this woman's house to remove her little girl and literally had to peel this bruise-covered child from her mother. Even as the woman was dropping cigarette ash on her head, screaming for the kid to get off of her, that she was happy to be rid of her, that she never wanted her in the first place, the child clung on. Doreen said, sipping the last dregs of her coffee. I don't know what it was about that story, but I signed up for the social work course the very next day. I thought I'd had a rough childhood, but this job has shown me some perspective. How did you get into interpreting? Where did you grow up? Doreen was genuinely interested in hearing the answers. She kept asking me more and more questions about my life. I had hardly touched the pot of tea in front of me, afraid of scalding my mouth right before this important interpreting job. I was born here in London, but grew up everywhere. My mother was an academic who used to work mostly 1 or 2 year contracts, so we moved countries almost annually. That's how you got into interpreting. You knew all the languages. Children pick them up so quickly, don't they? That's why it's too late for me in Japanese, she laughed. What language did you speak at home? English. My mother doesn't speak any other language, not really. She was never interested. My lips pursed as I thought about her in Singapore and tried to remember how many weeks it had been since our last phone call. Then my mouth opened and said the words I'd never said before. She was never interested in learning a second language, or in me. I was a career impediment. Doreen nodded and brushed the muffin crumbs into a neat pile. Most people I encounter in this job think about children as babies, toddlers, maybe teenagers at most, and when people say they want or don't want a child, those are usually the years they're thinking about. When they're crawling around under your feet, when you're watching their under-8s football team, taking them to ballet lessons. But the truth is, your child is only a child for a relatively short time. They're still your kid when they're 30, when they're 45, and those are the years people should think about when they decide whether or not they want a child. Forget the nappy stuff, the school years. Sure, that's when they need you in a practical sense. But think about all the long decades when you're both adults and you're equals. Those can be the really good years, because when it's good, your child is the best friend you've ever had. I poured a splash of tea into my cup and spilled most of it. Doreen sopped it up with a wad of napkins without missing a beat. Your mother might have struggled when you were younger, especially if she was single. But there's still time, is what I'm saying. How old is she? She is 53. See? Same age as me. You've probably got 30 more years together. Now are the best mother-daughter years. This is the time when you'll appreciate each other, she said. You may not have felt wanted when you were 9, but you're wanted now, let me tell you, even if your mom can't put that into words. I've replayed this conversation in my mind so many times in the intervening years. After everything that happened, and I decided to do something positive with my life as a kind of penance, I remembered Doreen's words about parenting. I wouldn't only adopt a child to atone, I'd also be doing it for me. Because when I picture my life in the coming decades, unless I took action, I realized it was going to be more of the same. What would have the greatest impact would not be a close work colleague who'd eventually fade away, or a partner who'd one day leave me or be perished, but a best friend. That's what would change my life. Why wouldn't that be a good reason for wanting a child? Holy cow, it's 10:59, Doreen said. She threw a tenner on the table, and we ran from the cafe back across the road to the council building, laughing as her shoe caught the edge of a pothole and she had to limp the final stretch. We made it in time. That part went to plan, but I can't think about what happened next. Chapter 14. Elliot and I finish his homework by 5 o'clock so that it's off our minds for the weekend. Then he starts a puzzle, a 100-piece jigsaw with pictures of shark species. Would he like me to sit next to him and help? Nope. Please get out of the way. He is slightly cold toward me this evening, and I have this crazy thought that he somehow knows what happened this morning. I messed up the court appearance and potentially the course of his entire life. No wonder he is angry with me. Elliot is more quiet than normal over dinner, and I am conscious of trying too hard to engage him. Did anything good happen at school today? I asked, moving the chicken around my plate. I learned a joke. Oh yeah? I'd like to hear it. Why did the restroom paper roll down the hill? I have no idea. To get to the bottom, we both erupt with laughter. I laugh so much that a single tear snakes its way down my cheek. I've laughed more in these last months with Elliot than in the rest of my life put together. Having him has been like trying a sport for the first time or a new gym class, and your muscles come alive. They were there all along, you just weren't using them. Fancy some ice cream, I ask? I remembered to put it in the freezer this time. Yes, please. Now he's giggling at the memory of his chocolate ice cream melting in the cupboard. After dinner, the phone buzzes, and I pounce on the first ring. Lydia? I say hopefully, even though her name did not display on the screen. Ravel Lee? Yes? I'm calling from Exia. Met police need a Polish Terp in central London. Now. I'll pass. The words like bitter medicine. I don't want to speak to anyone but Lydia. Thank you anyway. Half an hour later, he calls back. It's a quick job, but we need somebody reliable with a good reputation for this one. I can't tonight. I'm looking after a child, who is not necessarily mine. I won't be able to find a babysitter this late. I'd better get used to thinking of Elliot as someone else's son. Bring them with you. This time of day, the police station will be pretty empty. Leave the kid in the office. It's an alibi interview. Quick statement, and you're out of there. You said Polish? Then you must have someone else who can do it. You're the 5th interpreter I've called, his voice firm. They only have 8 hours left to hold the suspect. We need someone there now. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'll pay 2 hours minimum even if you're done in half an hour, plus travel time, okay? Tempting, but I can't. He sighs. Have you seen the news? Do you remember that woman killed in the posh Knightsbridge house 3 weeks ago? The maid? Sandra. I swallow hard. I think I heard something about that. Do I have to beg? Take the damn job. Can he really be calling me about Sandra? What other murdered Knightsbridge maid would it be? Police have someone in custody. Finally, a person who they believe responsible. A member of the public identified the homeless man on CCTV, I suppose, and they found him. I should declare that I knew her. Ethics dictates that I tell this man I knew the victim and he'll find another interpreter. I realize it's urgent and he just wants to find someone, but he needs to know. I should not be assigned to this job. I look across to Elliot on the other side of the dining table, dinner plate pushed away, his drawing paper and pencils spread out on the placemat. One day, when he's older, if I do get to keep him, I'll tell him the truth about what happened to Sandra. I'd like to tell him that I did everything I could to help catch her killer. I'll do it. At the police station, I apologized for bringing Elliot and set him up in the open plan office with his drawing, supervised by a constable typing with 2 index fingers. Elliot unwinds the scarf from around his neck and pulls off his red jumper. "I'm too hot," he says dramatically, making the constable smile. I overload him with clothes because there's a mild chill in the air, and I often find police stations to be drafty. "Put it back on if it gets cold, okay?" I say. I think back to the day at the Old Bailey when we met Sandra. Here I am, once again, leaving Elliot in order to complete a job. This can't become the norm. If I do get to keep him, I refuse to have his childhood memories consist of strange stations and unfamiliar people, entertaining himself while he waits around for me, feeling like a problem to be solved. I know that feeling, and I don't want it for him. I walk down the corridor toward the police interview rooms. A thought grows that it isn't too late for me to refuse to do this job. I can change my mind and take Elliot home. The best excuse would be to tell one of the detectives that I knew the victim. Ethically, that's exactly what I should do, but alibi interviews need to be conducted without delay, and the agency had trouble sourcing another Polish interpreter at this time of day. If I walk out now, it could affect the police investigation. I have to stay. I'll be fine, I reassure myself. I want to help Sandra, and I'll do it by getting the words exactly right. I'm neutral. It doesn't matter that I knew her. I'm the best interpreter for the job, and that's what Sandra deserves. "So you're the interpreter?" A man appears at my side. "Yes, I'm one of the detectives. Let's go." He walks me the rest of the way to the interview room. Bloke arrived in the UK a few months ago. Very limited English. He's been named as an alibi for someone in custody. He's Polish? That much we got. He stops dead in the corridor, and I pause alongside him, leaning against the wall. Oh, and he's homeless. They both are. Homeless. It's him. I try not to react. Someone did identify the person on the CCTV, the man with the bag who the Knightsbridge neighbors saw, the shadow who crept past Sandra's open door. I suppose you know procedure. Interpret the interview. Take notes. We'll do a written statement and send you both on your way. Only a written statement? Yes, in Polish, then in English. He's not a significant witness, so there's no video or audio recording. Okay. The bloke came of his own volition, so don't worry. He won't be aggressive or anything. Right. No solicitor, only the 3 of us, the detective says. I'll keep it short. He resumes walking to the interview room and I follow. Inside, the detective wants to place me beside him. Less common, but not unusual. The default position is for the interpreter to sit near the client, close enough to whisper deep into their ear. The detective gestures again for me to take my seat. I sit and look to the client on the other side of the table, 2 against 1. Once, an investigating officer made me sit directly behind the client as if I were an audio-only service, a full-color shadow of the suspect best tucked away out of sight. I've also been placed in front of the suspect like a mute puppet, supposed to hang open my wooden mouth and wait for speech from my master. I've heard of some interpreters being told to stand flat against the side wall during a police interview, part of the scaffolding of the room, not a person inside of it. They think we're so dispensable, sometimes treated like the work experience student, tolerated as a favor. Thank you for attending, the detective says to the man being interviewed. I say it in Polish for the client. Can you tell me your name, please? Mariusz Dorobek, he says. And now this feels real and oddly unfamiliar. Intimidating, as though I'd never interpreted an alibi interview before and don't know what I'm doing. The client knows the person in custody for Sandra's murder. The stocky man with brown hair, the one dragging the bag. There is no picture in front of the detective. Apparently this isn't going to be one of those interviews where police slide photographic evidence across the table. I told the police before, Adam didn't kill that woman. He's never seen her. I've never seen her. The client's words come out in a rush. I translate them into English. Okay, hold up, the detective says. Mariusz, can you tell me where you were on the evening of Saturday, September 16th? Where I always am, in Knightsbridge. Where exactly? The tunnel. The covered walkway on Brompton Road. That's our spot. Alone? Alone? No, with Adam. I told you. He speaks Polish. His mother is Polish. I repeat the response into English for the detective. Your spot, the detective says. Do you mean that you live there? Do I live there? Yes, I do. Adam too. The client is repeating the detective's questions before answering them. Liars do this in order to stall, to give themselves extra time to formulate their story. How long have you both lived there? How long? Nearly 3 months for me. Adam joined about 2 months ago, the client said. I came to the UK. to Luton first. A friend arranged a job for me on a construction site in West London. I was injured during my first week. Bad luck. My employer says there's no insurance, doesn't pay me anything, so I lose my accommodation in Acton, West Acton, and there's no money for a plane ticket home. Prices have gone up. I repeat his words into English. I met Adam. He was in a similar position, and he speaks my language. Now he's over-explaining, giving extraneous details, much more than what's required to answer the question. That's another symptom of lying. You're saying Adam Birch was with you on the evening of Saturday, 16th of September, the detective says. Adam Birch. The name rolls silently over my tongue. Adam Birch yet to be charged, but the man presently in custody for Sanders' murder. He could be an innocent homeless person who happened to be in the area, but his friend here is plainly lying about his alibi. Saturday, 16th of September. Yes, replies the client, from 5 o'clock. The detective writes on his form. Until what time were you with Adam Birch that night? I repeat the question in Polish. Time? All night. Could he have left for a short time? Half an hour? Left? He didn't. Did you fall asleep at any point? No, I didn't sleep. How can you be certain of that? We sleep during the day. It's safer. To confirm, you were by Adam Birch's side from 5 o'clock that evening until when? With Adam from 5 o'clock, yes, until the sun came up. About 6 o'clock, the client said. Could be 12, no, 13 hours altogether, yes. He's still overthinking and over-explaining, lying. Okay, the detective says, jotting on his form. Is that it? Will the detective conclude the interview now and accept this alibi, meaning the man in custody goes free? The Polish client is lying. He's clearly covering for his friend. I've seen it happen before. It mostly occurs between gang members, attempting to cover for each other, afraid of what will happen to them if they don't. But other communities too. Loyalty's free, I suppose. Even the homeless can afford it. The detective drops his pen. He's going to send this man on his way and release his friend, Sanders' potential killer. I can't let him do that without probing the client further. He can ask more questions. He can push him, try to break the alibi. I don't think he's that skilled as a liar. If the detective challenges him, I imagine he could crack. But the detective is rubbing the stubble on his chin, and he seems as though he's about to call this to an end. This time I won't sit here and do nothing. I produce a scratching noise from my throat and force a cough. I cough again, making the sound more rough, louder now. The detective looks at me, and I hold up my hand to my throat as though I cannot speak. I stand up and leave the room, making a show of gasping for air as I do. The door shuts behind me. In the corridor, I carry on coughing loud enough for him to hear. It's not working. I'm about to give up when he flings the door open. Kitchen, this way, he says, and I follow. He hands me a glass of water. Thank you. I take a few sips and begin to taper off my fake cough. Sorry about that. I'll be okay to go back and continue in a moment. He nods and refills my glass from the tap. We're almost done in there anyway. No, we aren't. Do you think he's being honest? I do my best to make it sound like a throwaway comment, something said to merely fill the silence. The detective is startled by my question. He looks at me with curiosity. There's a long pause, and I wonder if he's not going to answer, or if he'll reprimand me for even asking. You obviously have an opinion, he says. It's a statement, not a question, but here's my chance. I'll tell him what I think. I'm not meant to have any kind of influence, but he's the detective. It's his responsibility to ethically and professionally carry out the investigation. If I step over a line, it's his job to push me back. I've been doing this for 8 years. It's a little like acting, right? Speaking for, becoming someone else, wearing their skin. A police interview's a performance. I inhabit them, and I might only be in a room with them for an hour or two. But when you're their interpreter, you can't help but feel that you already know them. You take apart their words, their thoughts, and you can see through them. And yes, I think my client today has been dishonest with you. There's another pause, and I brace against the kitchen sink for a telling off. We have to go back inside, he says. He's going to do it, isn't he? Release the Polish-speaking client, let the other homeless man go. Sandra's killer is probably going free, and this officer might report me. Oh no, I've spoken out of turn, and he would be within his rights to make a complaint about me. Metropolitan Police work makes up 50% of my income most weeks. A black mark against my name with Exia could affect me getting other bookings as well. I can't change his mind about this Polish witness, but I need to apologize and protect my livelihood. What was it the man from Exia said on the phone? We need somebody reliable with a good reputation for this one. A reputation which for years I've done my best to earn, but still don't really deserve because what's already happened cannot be undone, no matter how good I am. I shouldn't have spoken, I tell him. One complaint from a senior officer is all it would take for Exia to no longer regard me as the best they have. I'm sorry. I've never done that before, I assure you. It's been a stressful day. I want you to know that I interpreted today accurately to the best of my ability. It's unethical for me to have given you my opinion on the client, and for that I'm sorry. Look, he's taking a step closer to me, lowering his voice. I shouldn't tell you this, but yes, I agree. The guy is probably lying, or confused, mixed up, and accidentally covering for his friend. Because that friend, we have his DNA on the body of the deceased, all over it. He did it. All of the air in my lungs escapes. The detective stalks down the corridor to the interview room, and I jog to catch up. Police finally have Sandra's killer in custody. They have evidence, and they know he's the one. I knew the client was lying. I replay his words. Adam didn't kill that woman. He's never seen her. I've never seen her. If they never met her, how would his DNA be on her body at the time of her death? My heart spins in my chest. I need to relax. This detective is just happy he's got his man, so I don't think he'll submit a complaint about what I said. He agrees with me, and he doesn't seem worried that I overstepped. When I sit back down at the interview table, I try to forget that I knew Sandra. I'm impartial. My job is to say the words. The context is not my concern. Focus on getting the words right, I tell myself. That's all I have to do. That's how I'll help Sandra. But then I think of the heiress's hit-and-run trial at the Old Bailey. Acquitted. So many acquittals. Having this man arrested and in custody is not enough. The police knowing that he's guilty is not enough. But I can't think about the trial. The outcome of that is not my business. All I need to do is translate the client's statement, and then I can take Elliot home. Translate his lies about being with Adam Birch at the time of Sandra's murder. We have his DNA on the body. I will get the words right. I always do what's expected of me. I've said lies before, I'm certain of it. In court, in British citizenship interviews, medical consultations, and other police interviews, I've repeated my client's mistruths because that was my role. My job is to translate correctly, not to tell the truth. But maybe it should be. All of those cases I interpreted on where the suspect, the defendant, went free. How many of those could have had a different outcome if I had changed the client's statement from their lies to the truth? The liar isn't always the person I'm interpreting for. Very often, they're the innocent one. What's the woman doing right now at the nail bar? She couldn't tell me the truth about her situation because she was afraid. The real liar was her boss, her probable captor. Then there's the French drug dealer. Is he out there on the streets at it again because I didn't tell the officer about his previous cautions? I don't make mistakes. I said it would never happen again, and it hasn't. Someone reliable with a good reputation. I keep my promises because I am reliable. I have a reputation for being the best because that's what I am. But Sandra is not an abstract victim, another name on a legal document, or an anonymous face on the news. I knew her, and she knew Elliot. She cared about him, and he liked her. If Elliot is going to be my son, how can I look him in the eye one day and say that Sandra was murdered without telling him the rest of the story? Well, I explained that police caught the right man. They were certain of it, but I facilitated a false alibi, and even though I knew this person was lying, I did nothing to stop him. I let it happen, Elliot, and Sandra's killer went free. A one-time babysitter from his past, he'll scarcely remember her, but he'll remember what I did. That she was an innocent person briefly in our lives, and I stood back and watched. Sorry about that, the detective says to the client, meaning our delay in the kitchen. I just have a couple more questions. I translate into Polish. So, all this time, from 5 o'clock in the morning until the sun came up, you're saying 6 o'clock in the morning, you were with Adam Birch in the place where you both currently live, and you didn't sleep during this time. Did we sleep? No, I told you, it's safer to sleep during the day, the client says. So then what were you doing? During this approximately 13-hour window, what did you both do exactly? The detective will have asked Adam Birch the same question. He wants to hear it from the client before Birch is released, and they have a chance to talk and get their stories straight. Adam was reading for a long time, the client says. I repeat it in English. What was he reading? A book from the street. You know, one of those street libraries where people donate used books. Adam was reading, but you weren't. Those books are all in English, and I don't read English good enough. So which book was Adam reading? I don't know the English title. Did he talk about it? Say what it was about? Did he talk about it? No. I don't really know what it was about. You must have got a good look at the cover. It was big, a very thick book. Fantasy, I think. A dark cover with dragons, something like that, the client says. Here are details the detective will be looking to match with Adam Birch's statement. If there are any discrepancies between the two accounts when it goes to trial, Marius Dorobek will be seen as an unreliable witness. It was a small, thin book, I say in English. I look to the client for comprehension. He hasn't noticed what I've said. A thriller, I think. A man was on the cover. The detective takes notes. I brace myself for an outburst from the client. He could sense that something isn't right, even if he doesn't fully understand my words. He's leaning on his elbows and cupping his head with both hands. He's stressed and worried. He's not paying attention to my English. "What else did you do from 5 o'clock that evening until 6 o'clock in the morning?" the detective asks. I say it in Polish for the client. "We ate some food from earlier in the day." "What food did you eat?" "Both of us had a sandwich. I had a banana sometime too." "Both of us had a sausage," I say in English. If Adam Birch told police he ate a sandwich, in court the prosecution can use this to discredit this witness in the eyes of the jury. In preparation for the trial, the defense team will notice the discrepancies between the men's statements and will probably drop the alibi defense and not even bother with the witness. The Polish word for banana sounds too similar to the English. There's no way I can change that term without the client noticing. "I had a banana," I tell the detective. "Okay, so I'm going to read the notes I've made," the detective said. He pauses for me to translate into Polish for the client. "The interpreter is then going to write a statement for you in your language. You'll read it, sign it, and she will write it up in English version and submit it to me." I cough again, then pretending to struggle with the cap on the pen to buy myself a few extra seconds of thinking time. What else can I do to help ensure Adam Birch is convicted? I could change the times on the client's alibi statement. Someone bilingual could compare it to the true window of time on the Polish statement and clearly see that I got it wrong. The same with the details about Adam's book and what they ate. There'd be no reason for them to think the mistake was deliberate. Though, if police started interviewing some of Sandra's babysitting clients and my name came up, then I'd have serious questions to answer. I can't risk it. I'll have to make the errors in the Polish version of the statement. That way it's the fault of the witness. It appears as though he gave the wrong details and I merely translated his error. The client could try to correct them later, but it would be too late. As a witness, if you sign something that's incorrect, you're useless to the defense team, immediately unreliable in the eyes of the jury. But how am I going to get the client to sign the statement with all of this wrong information? The skin on my right palm is twitching. I stretch out the fingers to disguise the beginnings of a tremble. Messy handwriting, that's how I'll do it. I'll make sure the first couple of sentences of the statement are difficult for him to read and hope he gives up. I complete the statement in Polish as quickly as I can. I want to get this over with. When I reach the place to write the time, my hand is squeezing the pen too tight and it skids across the page. I write the time he was with Adam Birch from 6 o'clock in the evening until 4 o'clock in the morning. It's only a slight change, but it's another discrepancy to cast doubt on the witness. It contradicts the time window he gave the detective during the interview and hopefully the time stated by Adam Birch. I spell out the numbers as words and pray the client doesn't notice. I've done it. The air in there is heavy. Moisture spreads at the back of my neck. After all these years, I've made a mistake again. I pass the sheet of paper to the client and swallow the rock in my throat. They can't catch me, I tell myself. They won't take Elliot. I let the client try to read the first couple lines. I need to get the paper out of his hands before he sees the time and details about the book and the food. "I could read it back to you," I say in Polish. I know my handwriting is terrible, if that would make it easier. He looks at me from across the table. I need to swallow again, but I'm too afraid to even make the slightest of movements. "Please." He hands the paper back to me. I begin to read. I hold the page up, tilted towards me to make it more difficult for him to see. I'm speaking rapidly, too quickly, but I'm trying to outrun my panic, and it's the only way to keep my voice steady. I read that he was with Adam Birch from 5 o'clock until approximately 6 o'clock in the morning. Mariusz Dorobek listens to my words and nods along. If he catches me now, sees what I've written, I'll feign embarrassment that I mixed something up as simple as the time. An entirely innocent mistake. All I'll have to do is laugh it off. Nothing criminal. I will deny, and I will not disintegrate. I reach the sentences about Adam's book and what the men ate and say fantasy and dragon and sandwich in Polish. Everything the client is expecting to hear. I read the last line of the statement and place the page on the table. The detective pushes it closer to Mariusz Dorobek and passes him a pen. The second it takes him to uncap the pen feels like an hour. After he signs, the detective will let him go. I'll stay behind, study the Polish statement, and write up the English version. The client curls his hand around the pen. I should not have told the detective that I think this man is a liar. I regret showing that bias because if they do catch my mistakes, I've freely given him my motive. The hovering pen lowers. He signs. Outside the interview room, I float down the corridor, my neck straight, limbs effortless and light. Elliot is there, still seated beside the same two-fingered typist, his nose practically level with his drawing. "I'm sorry, Batman," I say. "I'm done now. Let's go home." I rub his shoulder, smooth his hair. He says goodbye to the police officer, and we exit the building. "What did you do in there?" he asks. "Batman stuff." His eyes go wide. "You caught the criminals?" "That's right. I did." And that's the end of chapter 14. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to hear the rest of the story of Ravel and Elliot. We're about halfway through this book. If you have any ideas about what you'd like to hear me read next, please drop them in the comments. Thank you so much for being here.